It's a great day to talk hockey with Grant McCagg on HabsCast.
Good morning to you. Welcome to Summer Brunch with Rick Springhetti and yours truly, Grant McCagg. Sorry for the 3-minute delay. Was getting a message from StreamYard saying unexpectedly high traffic. So I hope that means that just people were just backed up trying to get into trying to get into the live chat to hear what great things we got to say this morning, Rick. Rick, good to see you, my friend. It's tough here, not only seeing you once a week now. For a while there, I was getting spoiled. We were doing about 4 or 5 podcasts a week, but nice to have a bit of a summer break, I guess, too, eh, Rick?
Oh yeah, it takes a lot, Grant. It's and we're gonna get back to that fun routine. I think when the season starts, of course. But yeah, it does feel good sometimes to stop watching hockey and maybe watch a ball game here and there or a football game. Last night was all of it, right? A bit of start off with some football, watch the Olinka Gretzky finals, and then we ended it off with the Blue Jays game. So it was a big sports
Oh
game,
my.
sports day for us last night.
Yeah, well, it's good to get some mixture in there. I'm all
Yeah.
hockey all the time here now, myself. Just I don't know. It's my job, and for you, it's not full time, so I get it. You still got time to watch all your ball and stuff, but for me, it's you know, I gotta watch the Holenka, and they got started playing hockey in Russia, so I got to keep an eye on of
Oh
course,
yeah.
the vaunted Canadian prospects that they're going to be playing exhibition games in the KHL coming up here and all that good stuff. So I can keep everybody up to date and informed on what's going on in Habsland prospect wise. But hey, nice to see Canada back with a gold medals around their necks last night. It was I was going to say a great game, but I mean, in the sense that great that Canada won, but not a great game to watch because it was not really very suspenseful. Rocco Zappia, our old friend there,
Yeah.
went to the tournament, and we were texting back and forth, and I said to him, like, this is not. It was obvious from the first shift that Canada was speedier and more skilled than the U.S. team, and it was no contest with the 8-1 victory for Canada. They just got stronger and stronger as the tournament went along.
Yeah. And for me, the first thing well, the second thing I should say, because the skill level was just out of this world, impressive, right? It's not just the speed of the players in terms of skating, but how they move the puck, getting open quickly, finding each other like they've been playing together for the last 10 years. It was really impressive. And I think this year, compared to other tournaments, especially the World Juniors, Grant, it just seems like everybody on this team found a role and they were able to play it. And we talked about that at the World Juniors, right? Where it seems like a bunch of guys, if they weren't playing in the top six, were totally lost. They really didn't find their groove, and they didn't really understand what to do. But everybody with this Team Canada found a way to contribute, got comfortable in a role that was maybe not usually their role to play, and you could see it. You could see the lines were great, just really really good, really well balanced. It seems like every period there was another player that stood out. Yes, of course, Maddox Schultz and Liam Pugh were D stars with Landon Dupont, but a lot of guys around them really contributed. And boy, I just can't say enough good things about this Team Canada. They didn't just won; they dominated and they took over the tournament. And there was nobody that was going to come close to them. Not even the talent was not there at all.
Yeah, yeah. They ended up having a pretty solid defense, good goaltending. Nice to have those two things for a change on the team, but then lots of offense too. Like all three facets of the game of the team were solid. Um, the Pew and Schultz obviously were kind of the talk of the tournament. Like just for 16-year-old kids, underage
Uh,
guys to dominate the way they did. I know Craig Button was singing their praises pretty highly all tournament and with good reason. But
Yeah,
that there was lots of chatter between him and Gord about, hey, maybe these guys get an invite to the World Junior Camp in December. Do you think that that's a possibility?
I hope it is. I think they would deserve it, and I think they would do well. Um, I fear that Team Canada's structure as a whole will make it so that a lot of the guys that have been there for a few years um, and that are of age will be given a role because that's the way they traditionally do things, and they try to make sure that the 18 and 19-year-olds get a role because they've been there for a while, and it's expected that they're going to play on the team. But realistically, the way they play, um, the thing with them is that they're not dominating their age group, but they're dominating. Like they play really well against anybody, and the way they play, it's a mix of skill but also incredibly high intelligence. So it's not just they're running all over the place, beating people with their speeds, making flashy plays that don't really amount to anything, but that look good. Is that they read and react so well to what opponents do, and guys like that could adapt very very well. I hope they get an invite. I hope they're giving a true opportunity. Unfortunately, my pessimistic side says that due to reasons of structure and political reasons or whatever you want to call it, I don't know if they're going to have a real. They might get an invite, but I don't think they make the team for that reason, and it's a shame because I think they should be on the team from what I've seen from them last year as 15-year-olds and this year as 16-year-olds at this tournament.
Yeah, yeah. Well, um, you'd have thought going into this tournament, you'd see Alexei Joseph being an invite to the World Junior Camp um, in December, thought of as maybe a top five prospect by a lot of people going in. I'm not sure that's the case right now. I think we saw some warts in his game, and he ultimately dropped from second line center for Canada to fourth line center by the big gold medal game.
Mhm.
Looks like he needs to get a little quicker, Rick.
He does. Pace wise, what was difficult, but some guys that scout midget hockey that I've gotten to know this year, I've kind of this was their concern. They said that a lot. They said he's really intelligent, but he seems to always be playing like he's not going as quick as he could, and then you kind of realize that this is as quick as he goes generally, and that was something that one guy said. He goes, his mind and his skill level tells me he could be like a top five pick, but the pace and energy and willingness to always stay consistently involved tell me he's more in the 15 to 20s. I mean, that's the difference where a lot of guys were really worried about him, and they were hoping that as he gets older, that in a tournament like this, it'll maybe motivate him or get him going a little bit. And it seems like it was almost the contrary. There was a lot of talent around him, and he's one of those guys that couldn't find a role that he could play or wanted to play. And it's unfortunate because the skill level is there, but he does have to get a lot quicker. But he's got to get also consistently moving his feet. There's some areas where he's not the greatest, quickest skater, but he's not moving his feet either, and that's kind of
Right.
hurting him a lot. So it's a problem,
Yeah.
and it's been a problem for a while with Alexis Joseph. From a few scouts have told me, I should say.
Yeah. Well, he looks more like a 10 to 15 guy right now, I think,
Yeah.
than the top five. And uh, L'Italien might, as far as two Q guys, it might be like he kind of swaps with him, right? He
Oh
looks
yeah.
like he might be a top five um, draft prospect. I was very impressed by him as the tournament went along.
Yeah, and I think we talked about a little bit texting each other. Grant, the word to me that stood out the best and was fluid. And when I say fluid, I mean everything was fluid. The skating, the passing, the stick handling, everything flowed easily from one thing to the next. If he's moving towards an open spot and he takes a shot, it's like everything just is one soft motion. And we talk when we're looking at drafting, we're looking at upside, but he's very, to me, at least from what I could tell, he seems very physically undeveloped. So you had that ability and that individual skills and the way he moves, and you add in 15, 20 pounds, and you got a heck of a defenseman there, because the physical side of him is not quite reached to how well he is in terms of skill, but sees the ice well, makes good decisions, move easily. He does a lot of things that you really want to see in a defenseman. So add in a 15, 20 pounds of muscle, and boy, oh boy, very exciting prospect to look at. He's one of those guys I'm really going to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. He looks good. And obviously, Dupont, as the tournament went along, just dominant, right? 4 assists in the gold medal game. Just so smart. Absolute, it's difficult to envision him not being right at the top of the draft. He'll be a top 3 pick for sure. And at this point, I think people still, even though he's under 5, he's under 6 feet. He looks like right now still the favorite to be the first overall pick in the draft.
Yeah. Uh, as you know, he got a different role on this team. He was the leader, and he reacted really well to it. Just love the way he activates so quickly in everything he does, defensively, offensively. He's there before the puck even arrives. He's already there before the player even enters the zone. He's there. He's always there. So people talk about how I've heard a few people say, "Well, at his size, can he really defend down low?" And it's like, I don't know if he can, because he never has to. When he's on the ice, he gets there, he moves the puck out of the way. There's nothing to worry about. It's consistent. To me, he's still my number one. I know there's some other, really talented prospects. You talked about Russia before, Grant. It's going to be a fantastic year for Russia, but I still
Yeah,
think Landon Dupont at the top of this 2027 draft class.
yeah. You know what? Defensively, the Cripps kid, he reminds me. You know who he reminds me of defensively a little bit? Hudson, Lane Hudson.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see some similar. Like they're both so smart and
yeah,
make the right plays and competitive too. Like
yeah.
I I know at the junior level at least he's a solid defensive defenseman. Now, will that translate to the NHL? It's going to be interesting to see where this kid ends up getting picked. I don't know. I see a guy that might kind of beat the odds and be a first round pick, maybe towards the end of the first round. But the size obviously will be what deters teams from taking him too high.
Yeah, that's a good point about him, and you're so right about his defense. The way he plays, the Hudson comparison's a good one, because he is like Hudson. He's undersized, but he's pretty combative. He gets to the puck and he battles, and he gets into position, and he uses that low center of gravity to his advantage by getting down there and forcing the opponent to kind of get off balance to try to contain him. And he handled big minutes really, really well. I'm a huge fan, and would he be a top first round pick for me? I mean, it's too early to tell, obviously, but right now, I have no problem putting him in the discussion in a later first round pick, because
Yeah.
guys like that, again, undersized, but you battle. There's big guys that don't do anything like that. He's a smaller guy that battles, and he'll go to war, and I have no issues with that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like him. And another smaller guy, Strader, who battles as well, but also
Yeah.
very
Oh,
skilled. I ended up really growing to like Strader. And I know there was a comparison made to Ridley Gregg, and I didn't mind that comp. Um, Maybe a little smaller, but he's another kid that I think you know, teams are going to look at and say, "Well, he's a little undersized, but I could see him being a first round pick as well."
yeah. And I think that the comparison to Ridley Gregg is interesting. I think the one advantage he may have, though, is I think he's a little bit more controlled than Ridley Gregg. I think Ridley Gregg, you're almost worried that he's gonna, do something that's gonna maybe hurt you more than anything else. But I find there's a control with Schroeder that is not there. He'll push his buttons, but he knows exactly how far he wants to go. It's almost like a cerebral way of being a pest, if you will. But he is a battler, and
Yeah,
there's very little hesitation in his game, which serves him well, because he gets that fraction of a second quicker to his opponents around the net. Another guy that was really, really shift after shift was bringing it, and he works well with skilled players because he understands what he can do. He's a bit like Cameron Warren with that, right? Where they kind of
Yeah,
understood, both of them understood how to play with talented players, what they have to do to be a factor, and not just watch and watch the others go, but to contribute and to complete and to give them a little something that they need. It was really something to watch.
yeah, and yeah, Cameron Warren, another good little player, smaller player.
Yeah.
Um, England, uh, speed and shot were were impressive. He's he's a decent looking prospect up front too. That I think will be highly considered in the first round for sure.
Man, he was one of the guys coming into the tournament that I really wanted to see because I liked him a lot in Seattle last year. And you know, to me, I to me he's a first round pick any day at this point, just because he's got a
Yeah,
lot to work with, and he's he's another guy that's not very big in term, not huge guy, but he plays with some jam. I don't know if you saw the hit the beginning of the third period last night where he went after that 6'6" defenseman and he
yeah,
rocked him.
knocked him down.
Uh, oh,
Yeah,
he knocked him right
yeah,
off. He's his hands. I mean, if he plays with talented players around him, he has a bit more to play with. I think you'll see a different part of his game. I don't know if he had a lot to play with in Seattle that really could help him out
yeah,
last season, but with more skilled players, he could be something. I really like him a lot, and it's instant offense because of his hands, his feet, and that shot that just explodes off his stick with good velocity and good aim. He doesn't miss the net too often, so he's somebody that I really think highly of, and I want to see a lot of him this year because I'm a huge fan.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Benjamin Veach looks like a good
Yeah,
prospect for next year too, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
Five goals, and certainly there were players in this tournament that and that's always the case. Usually they think, oh, next year, wait till next year. These guys, ooh, and that was one for sure that stood out in that regard. And no, like as per usual, like I don't know that there's a you know there might only be two top 10 players from Canada from this group perhaps that go in the draft, but that being the two defensemen we mentioned. However, there's several enticing prospects that could go anywhere from
Mhm.
15 to 40, right? That I
Yeah.
think we saw in this tournament. Boston Tate, what were your thoughts on Tate?
Ah, boy, he's one of those guys that I liked last year, and we were talking off air about this. Sometimes when Canada's playing certain European teams, I tend to look a little bit more at the European players because I won't get a chance to see them as much during the regular season with the CHL guys.
Fair
I see.
enough. Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with Tate. I think in this environment, I think he's a little bit more of a puck moving guy, and I think in this environment he had to be a little bit more conservative. I didn't dislike what he did. I think the one thing he did really well, from what I've noticed, is he gets the puck out of his zone pretty well, pretty quickly, and that was a good thing that he did really well. Um, but he had to be a little bit less visible at this tournament, and that's fine. I mean, it's when you have
yep,
Malek Litani and Landon Dupont on there, but good for him for finding a role that works and contributing in that sense. It's a talent to get out of your comfort zone and contribute in other ways, and I thought that he was fine at this tournament. I don't think he disappointed at all, and he's another guy that curious to see what he does with his team this year.
yeah. We'll circle back to this in a little while. I think people want to you know want to see what we have to say about Derek Lalonde. That is the
Yes.
main topic. Um, I mean, I was surprised to see Tom Selleck at the tournament. I thought he was too old for that, but it was kind of cool to see him there. We'll talk about him and some others. Somebody asking VDoc who was that American kid celebrating after scoring being down 3-1 like he just won in overtime. Yeah, it was Gunner, and he was
Got her
gunning,
top
eh?
boy.
We
Yeah,
got a great big convoy. Yeah, you see a
he's
beautiful
a
sight. Yeah.
he's
Mercy
he,
sakes alive, we got us a convoy. That was what I said. That's what ran through my head when I saw that. Like, what the hell's going on here? Why are you celebrating like that, kid? And I don't even know if he's actually scored the goal. It might have been over. It was certainly heading over the line before it hit the shaft of his stick, but not quite
it's
at the
true.
same level as Gilbert Dion. Like me, I scored it, I
Yeah,
scored it. But
remember
it
that?
was it was close to that. It's
I thought
still
I'm a bunch of bear.
yeah, still blows me away to this day, Rick, that Gilbert Dion has a Stanley Cup ring, and he could always go up to Marcel and say, huh?"
Oh
He has
God, I
one and
hope
Marcel
not.
doesn't. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a little sidebar. It's one of a little bit of my pet peeves when people say, "Well, is he a Stanley Cup? Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. He
I
hasn't won
know.
the cup." It's like, oh, come on! Like, what do you want him to do? Like, you can't
Yeah.
hire anybody else. So, anyways, just a
W
little
w
sidebar on that.
well, like, so is Gilbert Dion a better, you know, would you rank him higher on the all-time great list because he has a cup and Marcel doesn't? Like, maybe
I
not,
know.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
No, I agree 100%.
yeah. Or, I don't know, Brian Engblom or Brad Park, like I mean, Engblom had like 3 cups and, you know, Brad Park had none. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Uh, so Derek Lalonde, okay, topic du jour. He has been hired as Montreal's associate coach. We haven't really talked about it too much on the show yet, and I thought maybe we'd take a bit of a dive into Derek Lalonde's past and just try to speculate a bit about what maybe he'll be bringing to the club. First of all, just like what were your initial thoughts when you heard that they had hired Derek Lalonde as associate coach?
Well, I was really surprised that Trevor Letowski either stepped down or I don't know, was maybe reassigned somewhere else. It's hard to figure out
Yeah,
what
yeah,
that's all about. We have our we suspect a few things. Um, the first thing I thought was interesting is that he was a former head coach in the NHL, not very long, but he was a former head coach in the NHL. And I think a lot of people had talked about the importance of, and I think yourself too. I talked about the importance of maybe finding a guy that has some head coaching experience to complement. Not like a desperate need for that, but just something that would be a bonus. And uh, I didn't mind. I thought it was not something that I was overly focused on, but if you could bring it in and he's the right fit, why not? Um, I thought what I did like a little bit is that I thought back to maybe 2 years ago when the Habs did their postmortem and somebody asked Kent Hughes, what do you think? How far do you think Marty St. Louis come as a head coach? And what do you think is his big weakness? And I think he had said something about it's tough for a young coach to learn how to delegate at times because you want to feel like you're in control of things, and it's hard to delegate and all that. And um, I thought that was interesting because with a Derek Lalonde, it's almost like you kind of have to delegate some to him because of his head coaching
right,
experience and his years and
sure,
years of coaching. And it might help. I thought it might help Marty St. Louis to bring in a different element, maybe more of a challenge also to maybe in the back rooms and when you're having the pregame discussions to say, no, Marty, I think you're wrong. We got to do it this way and to challenge him. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So look, I was happy about it. I can't say, I'm super knowledgeable on Derek Lalonde's background. I have read a little bit on him and I have some ideas, but I thought it was an interesting hire and I think it was maybe one that will make the team better.
yeah. Well, I think, as associate coach, that's basically deputy sheriff, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's fair to assume that he will have a larger say than Letowski did, and be Marty's right hand man, so to speak. I'm curious to see whether because well, let's have a look at the resume here. Obviously, started in college. He's from upstate New York, by the way, Brasher Falls, which basically almost makes him Canadian. You know, he grew up playing hockey and playing against Kingston and Ottawa and all that stuff. I'm sure
Okay.
tournaments, right? Um, which is kind of cool. So we'll call him a half Canadian. Um, Ferris State and University of Denver assistant, Green Bay Gamblers head coach in the USHL. Then he went to the ECHL as a head coach. Then the AHL. I like the progression there, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes. 100%.
just one league, one level at a time, and then assistant, head, then back to the NHL as an assistant, 4 years. Won 2 cups in Tampa as assistant coach, then got hired by Detroit 3 years, and leased last year. But from what I've gathered, I mean, I don't, I didn't follow his career um, real closely either, but all the information I've gathered on it, like Lalonde was heavily involved with the penalty kill and defensive side in Toronto. His PK philosophy, it emphasized aggressive pressure while protecting the middle and eliminating east-west puck movement. Um, you know, you wonder, like, does Stefan retain the defense? Does Derek start to work some with that? He'll probably work some. I think and I would suspect he'll be running the PK because that seems to be his background. That he was heavily involved on the defensive end in Detroit. He implicated a defensive system in Detroit right when he went there. In Tampa, he um, he basically ran the defense and the penalty kill. 4 seasons under John Cooper, but he was, there was a good shot of him during the 2021 Cup clinching game against the Habs. The camera panned over, and he was shown directing Tampa's defensive unit during the late timeout after Montreal pulled Carey Price. So that he had a big say in how things ran defensively there. The Tampa had a strategy kind of it was strategy oriented. He was a strategy oriented assistant that that took over from Rick Bonus, but it wasn't simply zone or man to man. It was highly structured and adaptable, which sounds like it's similar to Montreal. Like, I don't think, you know, um, I think he basically has always sort of ran a hybrid system, right? Where it's man to
Mhm.
man to a certain degree, and then down low you collapse. You know, uh, and Marty is I think his system is not only defensively but in the offensive zone and in the neutral zone, all three zones. It's concepts, and he wants the players to adapt and to not to be in a rigid system where it's either man to man all the time or zone all the time. You adapt with how the play is developing, and I believe that Derek Lalonde is kind of he has that same sort of mentality about it. So I suspect that the Canadiens will still have some form of a hybrid in the sense that it won't be just strictly man to man or zone in the defensive zone.
I think that makes total sense, Grant. Everything you said, what makes a lot of sense. Marty St. Louis often talked about he wants thinking players out there. He wants guys who think, who adapt, who don't just fall into mindless following a certain structure because he doesn't like that. And that sounds like what Derek Lalonde brings to the team. Also, I like your point too about his career, like building up from the bottom up and doing different things at different levels. I think that's really important. I believe as a hockey player too, he was a goaltender, and that's interesting because you kind of see the game a little differently when when that's the position you play. So that gives him another little something. I think that's really important. The idea of them not always he kind of coaches a bit like Marty St. Louis in a sense, right? It's concepts, it's ideas, it's adapting to what the opponent does, and thinking of the best strategy and that you have in your toolbox. Interestingly enough, I think there's that obvious connection, right, between Marty St. Louis and Vinny Lecavalier and Tampa. So I think they must have known a lot of what was going on in that team, and I think if they chose him, it's because there's a fit that totally makes sense, and they see it, and they could envision it working. So that's a big advantage. So I think that's part of the reason too, where Derek Lalonde's going to come in. I think they know that he could complement Marty St. Louis, complement him, but also have a lot in common where there's not a clash of ideas that won't work. So it sounds all
Yeah.
positive so far.
And as far as on the forecheck and stuff in Tampa and how, you know, what he implemented to a certain degree, like during his time with Tampa, they commonly had two forwards pressuring with the third forward staying above the puck. That sounds a lot like what Oliver
Yeah.
Kapanen likes to do. Anyway, I have a feeling that he's going to like, and we'll get to that in a minute. But when they couldn't establish pressure, they could retreat into a neutral zone structure, often described as a 1-3-1 or a 1-1-3 type, clog in the middle, encouraging opponents to dump the puck in rather than allowing controlled entries. So their defensemen could pinch, but generally with support rather than recklessly. So I could see there being some modest adaptations and
Hmm.
a hybrid of of Marty's concepts and Derek Lalonde's concepts, and
Yeah.
just try to come up with so the Montreal Canadiens players for the most part are pretty. I think they have high hockey sense, and Marty is going to rely on them, thinking away from the puck and using their instincts and their anticipation to to hopefully improve defensively and cut down on the goals against the Habs. It is probably they became one of the best goal scoring teams in the league last year, but defensively they were still middle of the pack. And if you want to be an elite team in the NHL that's right at the very top, the goals against needs to be cut down.
And I think secondary to that, and kind of related to what you're saying too, Grant, is trying to make sure you don't get too far hemmed into your own zone, and that you have strategies to break up plays and get the puck out. Uh, when the team is cycling and putting pressure, obviously that leads to goals more often than not. Doesn't help. Uh, but furthermore, even if it doesn't lead to a goal, getting hemmed into your own zone is exhausting. It has an effect on the way you play later on in the game. It creates, fatigue and things like that. So even creates injuries when you're just getting pounded every time trying to find a way to get out of the mess you're in. So
Yeah,
it's really far reaching the importance of getting that defensive structure and the penalty kill going, to kind of limit the opportunities to have bad things happen. So that part too is going to. You hope Derek Lalonde will do that, and the similarities again between Tampa and the what he did well is Tampa has always had high end talent. But one thing they do really well, Tampa, is bringing in guys that are role players and making them effective in those defensive missions they get, because they often would spend a lot for their best players, but then they'd have to find, support players and that are not paid much to find roles. And the fact that they survived and did really well, actually, it's very encouraging. I think that shows that Derek Lalonde can take players, find a way to make them successful, find a way to implement a system with players that are not star players in the leagues. And I think that's going to help a lot because, again, Marty St. Louis does like to use, a lot of times people would say, no, why is Suzuki on the penalty kill and guys like that? And I think Marty St. Louis values finding a role for everybody from the top players to the bottom. And this is what Derek Lalonde, I think, could do well. So that becomes a secondary fit, I think, between both men to really run this team well with,
yeah,
of course, Robida and everybody else around.
yeah. And also, I think, well, player evaluation is going to change to a certain degree. Like I imagine Derek will have a say in who he thinks, when you get down to the 12th, 13th forwards and the 7th, 8th defense and who gets cut at the end of camp and so on,
Yeah.
it's nice to have that different set of eyes in there. He might have different opinions on who he thinks should be on the roster than what Trevor Letowski, for instance,
Yeah.
might have had. And, he arrives without years of preconceived notions about the prospects too. So, maybe he loves Engstrom. Maybe he thinks, wait, Reinbach, you got to have, I know that while he was there, Eric Chernak became a big piece of,
Yeah.
and there's some similarities between Eric Chernak and Reinbacher, although I think Reinbacher has more puck game and more offense, but just the defensive, I think Lalonde liked bigger crease moving defensemen, and he might suggest, quietly that, hey, maybe it's time for Reinbacher to be replacing Carrier in the lineup, or something along those lines. That he suggests it to Stefan, and it's time for the big guy. He's ready. Let's give him the opportunity. Maybe Beck or Jack Eye. He thinks, okay, these guys should be in the lineup. Tekche sits out, or something along those lines, that there could be a couple of changes in how the roster will look opening the season than if it would have been the same group of coaches as last year.
Yeah. Very good point. Different set of eyes, different aspect of looking at him. Also, you might come in and look at the Habs, as an opponent, and that's interesting too, right? Or you're not just as
Right.
being the on the team, but as an opponent. This is what I when I would coach. This is what I would do. This is what I would think. This is what was a difficulty for me. There's a separation there, and as you said, that's a really good point too about coming in and, not having to coach guys that you grew up with. In a sense, a lot of the players that are on the team right now started off in the league with Marty St. Louis. Marty St. Louis brought them up, so there's probably an attachment. Well, he won't have that attachment. He could be very close. And from what I've read in a few articles, one thing about Derek Lalonde, they said, is he is incredibly blunt. He does not sugarcoat anything. He says it exactly the way he sees it. There's no confusion in his opinions on somebody. Not a bad thing again to have to maybe shake things up a little bit and say, no, Marty, you got to look at it differently. As an opponent, this is this and this is what happened. And this is what I was thinking when I took you guys on. This player was not a worry to me. I know you use him a lot, but I didn't worry about him. Oh, well, geez, that's something different. And I do take a guy like Reinbacher with his skill and his intelligence. I could see Derek Lalonde being a huge proponent for him, because I think he fits in what Lalonde wants to do. That taking man's game, uh, movement, long reach, uh,
Yeah.
all these things it sounds like something Derek Lalonde likes.
Yeah, for sure. I also think, I look back at the at Tampa and who with him having a large say in how they play defensively and PK and all that. Tyler Johnson had 23 points in the 2014-15 playoffs for Tampa, led the league in playoff
Wow.
points, right? The following season, who was their number 2 center? Johnson had 72 points that year and then led, but where Derek Lalonde said, okay, that's fine, but we need a bigger guy, better on faceoffs, better defensively
Mhm.
in that role as a second line center, and that was Anthony Cirelli. And the
Hey,
very
look at that.
next season, Cirelli started to take over that second line and playing with Stamkos, being the defensive
Unreal.
conscience. Not nearly as productive as Johnson had been, but a better complement to Stamkos and the second line as a just a all around center that's with an emphasis on defense, right? And I mean, it
Right.
worked. That they eventually went on to win 2 cups, right? Uh, I mean, Cirelli wasn't in the next year, but he did replace Johnson um, as time went along, and it's just who Cirelli reminds me of somewhat, and I've mentioned it before,
Yeah.
is Oliver Kapanen, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I have a feeling that Derek Lalonde is really going to like Oliver Kapanen, and that he's going to want him to be center in the second line to start the
Hmm.
season as just a second year. And I mean, obviously, the Habs were impressed with his defensive play too last year without Derek Lalonde around, because he, for the majority of the season, was a main penalty killer on the team. So that's one guy that if you look back at when Lalonde came in, Cirelli, even though Johnson had that higher point totals and he had been at the second line center, said, "Well, I think we need somebody who's going to just bring a little more defensively in the second line center role, even though Johnson probably get more points, and then move Johnson down to a third line role or even on the wings." So,
It's
uh, do
interesting.
you think do you think that I might be onto something there?
Yeah, yeah, no, you definitely could be onto something, and that's something that I could foresee happening. And now Kapanen's going to have to have I think he's going to have a pretty big off season to really work on his speed and,
Yes,
and physicality and get used to that. So there's a part of it that's on Kapanen's shoulders right now, but he has the skill
absolutely.
set, the style of play, and the hockey IQ to really do a lot of the stuff that Derek Lalonde wants him to do at center. So I think there's a very logical path there to Kapanen not only being in that role, but I think with Derek Lalonde, he could take another step forward in that role. I have no doubt
Right.
about it. The tools are out there. If I'm Oliver Kapanen right now, I'm super motivated to have a huge off season and to be ready because there's a nice window for him to make a really good impression on a coach that will work very well with him.
Yeah,
No doubt about it.
I like this from Serge Ramo. Hybrid of a hybrid. Hopefully, players sharpen their pencils. Yeah. Well, yeah, they're they're going to have to be thinking. And you know, um, I wrote an article yesterday on Patreon. By the way, it was free. You can go if you go to HabsCast Patreon, check it out. It was a free article. I went pretty in depth into why I think the Habs can better last season's point total, in part because they play 2 more games, but that's only a small part of it. Um, I don't think the Atlantic Division has improved nearly as much. Changes for the sake of changes doesn't necessarily mean you're a better team. Montreal didn't make changes. That doesn't mean that other teams improve more because they made changes. It means Montreal's core didn't need to be changed. That they're together. They went to the Final Four last year. They won the division in the playoffs, right? All of the young guys are all still slated to keep improving. So there's going to be internal improvement just from all of the young players not having reached their uh, their primes yet. But Kapanen, I keep again. People keep saying, "Well," because I had a poll, and here, let's just bring it up. This was how many points will the Habs get this season? 94, 94.4% said that the Habs will basically either get the same amount of points or fewer. Only 5.6% said that there'll be an improvement in their point production. So I was a little surprised by that because I'm in that group. I think that the Habs, uh, and I mean, they'll only have to win. Look, over an 84 game schedule, if they tie the win percentage of last year, Rick, it's 109 points. So basically, they need one more win. than they got last year to improve on their point totals. I, the schedule's favorable to start the year. 6 out of the first 9 at home. I think they're going to be a confident group that, that plays together. Like a team like Toronto that has like 8 new players coming in. Do you think, and only 5 exhibition games to start the year, and 2 of them split squads? Do you think they're going to know everybody's tendencies and be comfortable to start? Montreal, they could just imagine going from playing against Carolina to playing against a Toronto team with about 8-10 new players regular season. Do you not think that Montreal is going to come out of the gate strong and they're going to be tough right from the start of the season? I think they win. Like they start 6-3, 7-2, and they just keep their foot on the pedal from day one. Hopefully, goaltending will be the only. I mean, if they don't get the goaltending, that can be different. But as long as the goaltending is consistent, unlike it was at the start of last year, I think the Habs are going to be at the top of the Atlantic standings from start to finish this year.
I definitely could see it. You bring up a good point about Toronto not knowing each other, not knowing their tendencies. Another thing that we could say about Toronto is majority of their players. I mean, they're going to have McKenna that's going to come in. Obviously, that's a big deal. But a lot of the players in their lineup are not guys that are going to improve, really. I mean, Nice maybe, Cowan could improve, but there's a lot of guys that are on their, kind of on the later stages of their career that might not be even as good as they were last year. That might be an issue. And we talk a lot about Florida's a team to keep an eye on, obviously, because Barkov's going to be back. He's a bit of a game changer. I see it, but it's also a team that's not very quick. I don't know how, it might be a team that's going to look to headhunt a little bit and get themselves out of their game, and they might struggle with that. With Montreal, as we said, and as you said, especially there, everybody they have on their team practically, especially in their top players, their leaders, if you will, almost all of them will continue to improve. Another thing, too, to forget about that it's important to remember, Grant, for Montreal is, unlike a lot of other teams, they have some cap space available and good assets that they could move that won't hurt their team, but that could make them better. So the team we're seeing now, I think, is really, really good and can definitely hit 110 points as the season goes on. But if there's any weaknesses or any problems, Montreal have the assets to fix those compared to other teams. And that's a big plus. I think people forget that when they talk about assets, we tend to look at just players on the ice, but assets is also cap space, draft picks, prospects. Those are all assets too that are really important and that could help a team.
Yeah. And, going into the year, the common narrative, the common thought is that the weaknesses are, right defense. They need another right defenseman. I think that's David Reinbacher coming in. It's the solution there is internal. I think as the season goes along, whether it's at the day one or not, we'll see. I have a feeling Derek Lalonde's going to say, this guy should be in the lineup, and Marty will listen to that. But it's first line or second line center and another second line winger seems to be what people really, and I think, it's been overblown because there seems to be this thought that the second line center has to be like a 70, 80 point scorer, that's just the be all to end all. But you know what? The vast majority of second line centers are not high. They're not big goal scorers. They're not huge point getters. All in all, they're really solid two-way centers. And I think that's what Kapanen is, heading towards. And and I've said it over and over again, needs a good offseason so that he doesn't hit a wall this year. But typically he starts off the season strong, and I think he'll be in that second line center slot. And I don't think it's as catastrophic as some people are making it out to be, that Demidov will have Kapanen and probably Newhook as his line mates to start the year. They played together a lot last year, so it's not like they're not familiar with each other. And they had a lot of really good games together. Like it was a very effective line for the most part. Um, when Newhook got his injury, he was playing really good hockey, and then he came back to it later on. But I dug up some research yesterday, and it was in my article. Again, go to HabsCast Patreon, check it out. And hey, we've got tickets, by the way, 2 tickets to the last exhibition game. If you sign up to HabsCast Patreon, it's only $5 Canadian a month. You will be eligible to win those 2 tickets. Paul Antoniadis was more than generous enough to donate these. So he wants to see HabsCast succeed and for the Patreon page to succeed. And the more support we get, the more info that we can give you through HabsCast Patreon. But $577 value, those 2 tickets.
Wow.
So it costs you $5 for a month subscription. Check it out. See all of the great stuff that Rick and Blaine and Bob have put up. You're going to be. I've almost got I've got the top 30 ready to go. I just have to get my Instat subscription back. I'll download those this week, and this week I'll be revealing HabsCast top 30. But Rick also is going to have his own rankings of the Habs prospects. I like to get everybody's opinions, but pay attention to mine, folks. That's the one. That's the one that really counts.
Absolutely. Of course.
Okay, but get back to Kapanen. Here are some stats I've got on Kapanen and Newhook that I think reveals that people are maybe just underestimating just how much offense that these two provided last year. Look, what's important on the line is what they do at even strength, because that's when they're aligned. That's when they play together. Kapanen and Newhook weren't playing with Demidov on the power play. When they did play together, it was even strength. Check out these stats, Rick, on both of them. We'll start with Kapanen. All right. Kapanen was tied for second among all NHL second line centers in even strength goals. Brock Nelson had 23, Kapanen had 20, Byfield had 20, Tavares 19, Zacha 19, Cirelli 18, brought up that name again, Nico Hischier 17, Dylan Cousins 15. Those were the top goal scorers, second line centers in the NHL. So this notion that, to be a decent second line center in the NHL, you have to, score 30 goals at even strength. Well, that's not what second line centers do in the NHL. Look at those numbers. So, second best as a rookie in the entire league, Rick. And it's not like he's poor defensively, right? He friggin' was a regular penalty killer. So I just, is that not tangible proof that, look, people are underestimating just how good Oliver Kapanen was as a rookie center in the NHL?
It's recency bias. I know it ended off really tough for him at the end of the year. As you said, he hit a wall playing, twice as much hockey at a higher level than he's ever played in his life. So you got to give him a little bit of a break. Development is that's what development is. It's improving, but then hitting a wall here and there. And when you figure out how to get through it, that's how you become a better player. It happens to most of them. I mean, Kapanen is not a top 10 pick, and those top 10 guys usually tend to do well and just goes, but that's not typical development. Development is players who play well, like Kapanen did, take the game well, like Kapanen did. As the season wore on, we've noticed some flaws. Okay, there's rooms to work on it, but it's over 20 goals, and people always say, well, he played with Demidov. Other guys played with Demidov and couldn't finish his plays. Kapanen does certain things right to take advantage of what opportunities that yes, Demidov gives. And if that's what he does well, if he feeds off talented players, that's a skill unto itself, and that's a very good skill to have. We just talked about that now, Grant, and with the Canada World Juniors team, right? How certain players were able to work well with more skilled line mates. That's what Kapanen does, and if people also talked about how Demidov does so many things well, well, maybe having a responsible center like Kapanen makes it possible for Demidov to use more of his offensive skill because there's backup around him that you could trust. So
Yeah.
you work in hockey, you work with your line mates, and Kapanen works well with his line mates. I have
Well,
no doubt that he's going to come back and be a lot better than he was at the end of last year. I have
yeah.
no doubt about it.
Peter August says not catastrophic, true, but not optimal for Demidov production. Not optimal. The second best friggin' goal scorer in center in the league on the second line. That's not optimal? What's optimal to you, Peter? 40? Like, look, Demidov is a playmaking winger, first and foremost. He's got the second best as a rookie, the second best, most productive, even strength goal scoring center in the league, and that's not optimal? Come on. Yes, it is. And that, guess what? He was a rookie. It can only get better. Like the more they play together, the, uh, I don't get this. Not optimal. You know, Davidov was a rookie in the NHL, and he had the most. He's the first friggin' Montreal rookie forward to be at the top of the scoring leaders among all rookie forwards in the league, and that was playing with Kapanen all year. That's not optimal. Like, what did people think that Demidov should have been a 100-point scorer as a rookie in the NHL? Like, just tap it down a bit there. He's a second. He finished second in Calder voting only because it was a franchise friggin' defenseman in the Islanders, or he wins the Calder Trophy with Kapanen as a center all year. I don't know. It seemed pretty optimal to me, Rick. And we got this new hook here. All right. Here's the other one. Oh, you got to have a second. You have to have a forward, a true second line forward. Well, here's new hook scoring in context. Okay. Only 38 NHL wingers scored 26 or more goals last season. New Hook was on a 25 goal pace. All right. He doesn't get injured. I think he scores 25. And including playoffs, where, by the way, only 4 wingers scored more goals than Alex Newhook last year in the playoffs. 4 out of 16 teams. That makes him like the 5th best, most productive winger out of 16 teams in the entire playoffs. That's first line winger, let alone second. But he was on a 30.7 goal pace if you include the playoffs. And I like to include the playoffs because that's when it actually counts. 19 goals in 51 games, including playoffs last year. 19. Okay. The two of them combined, I didn't, I'll have to bring this up because I didn't load it earlier, but this is the one that really blows me away. All right. Even strength goals, Rick. Okay. Wyatt Johnson and Jason Robertson led all NHL. They were the highest scoring duo in the league on any team, right? They each had 45 goals, so they scored 90 goals combined. All right. Even strength goal scoring. Combined individual goals per 60 minutes. So this is not on the power play, even strength. Okay. Johnson and Robertson averaged 2.16 goals per 60, even strength. Newhook and Kapanen, 2.05. They almost equaled them. Like they were right at the very top as far as a duo, even strength goals per 60. Slav and Suzuki, who are staples on the first line, right? 1.50 even strength goals per 60. Like way below what Kapanen and Newhook produced per 60 minutes on the ice at even strength. So to say that these guys can't, that it's not optimal for Demidov, there were maybe 2 a handful of duos in the entire league, and we're not talking second line players. We're talking top of the league first line players that had more even strength goals per 60 than Newhook and Kapanen. Uh, Not optimal for Demidov. I say the stats say the exact opposite, Rick.
That's what it looks like. Again, the people, I think people forget, and again, I said that term before, recency bias. They forget how good that Kapanen, Demidov, Newhook line was before Newhook got injured. They were being used they were the most productive Habs line for a chunk of the season that was pretty decent. Then Newhook gets injured, and then by the time he comes back and finds his game, Kapanen hits a wall from having played so much. So there's reason to think that this will be a good line. And another thing that I would also, invite people to look at, go look at Carolina's second line. Go look at Las Vegas' second line. All those teams that made it, no, both teams that made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, their second line was not scoring 35 goals a year. Like it just, it just doesn't happen. It's that's not the game. So look, I mean, again, does Kapanen have flaws in his game that he has to work at? Of course. Is there reason to think that he could get better? Of course. There's no reason to desperately worry about that second line. I think it should be fine. Uh, my biggest concern, one of them was addressed, was goaltending. That was the big problem at the start of the year last year that hurt the Habs more than anything else. Goaltending was the problem, and get that depth at defense, that they could play a lot of minutes. They needed to. There was a few guys that were playing too many minutes. I think if Reinbacher comes back, it'll make the team better. It'll make the second line produce better because the team will have the puck more. It'll be a very good. Everything's going to fall into place much better. Uh, I'm just fine with the Habs starting the season with what they have now. I was not one of those guys that was desperate for a Habs trade, that felt like if they don't make a move, it's a failure in the offseason. It's not. If there was a move to be made that made the team better, absolutely go for it. But I wasn't looking
Yeah,
at the trade market with any kind of concern. If this is what it is, I'm fine with that. No problem.
yeah. And here's another narrative that's actually, that I keep seeing again and again. Cappy had a good year, but I point out that no other 2C had Demidov feeding them one timers. You don't think there's any playmaking wingers on second lines in the NHL? Go back and have a quick have a larger look, VDoc. And you know what, Cappy, we've already crunched the numbers quite often. Cappy, the primary assists on Kapanen's goals last year, only a handful of them were from Demidov. Like I think it was 5 or 6 or something like that. I did a video on it before. You know, Demidov didn't assist on all 22 of Cappy's goals. They weren't all just one timers either. Cappy scored in a lot of different ways. Like remember that friggin' on the penalty kill, coming down that first game of the year against Toronto, came down and scored that pivotal, that beautiful shot, shorthanded, that was at the start of the year. Demidov wasn't on the ice for that. He wasn't out on the PK. No, Cappy's goals came from a variety of different setups from a variety of different players, including Hudson, including Newhook, including Slav. It wasn't just Demidov feeding him the puck. In fact, I thought that, you know, I expected more chemistry between Demidov and Cappy. Um, Demidov was not getting the puck to Kapanen a lot. Kapanen was open a lot of times where Demidov didn't get him the puck, and it was actually the opposite. There was a number of times when I thought Demidov should be feeding this to Cappy because he's got a great one timer, a great shot, and he didn't. I think that there's room for Cappy to grow here as a goal scorer, playing with Demidov as they get more and more used to each other. I hope they're together again this year. I think Cappy can build off of that 22 goals and score even more, and maybe have the most goals by any second line center at even strength in the entire league this year. But you know what? There'll still be people saying, "Oh no, got to get a legitimate second line center in there. Anyway, it's something that that's going to be debated all year, I'm sure, regardless. But again, you just can't lose sight of this, and you can't just say, well, it's all because of Demidov. That's that Alex Newhook and Oliver Kapanen are both more than solid, and they're good defensively too, right? Newhook
Yep, they are.
brings that speed, forechecking. He's on the PK. Kapanen's on the PK. So, they help Demidov too. Demidov can do some of his fancy dance stuff. Like, how many times did Demidov turn over the puck in the offensive zone by overhandling at times? I know we don't say anything about it because he's just like Hudson, you don't criticize Hudson or Demidov
No,
because
no.
they're they're going to be the superstars. They're the fancy players. Well, Demidov did turn over pucks a lot in the neutral zone, offensive zone, and who was there to back him up? Invariably, Cappy was back. He just like that system that we were talking about that Tampa had, where the third guy was back, right? Well, that's usually Kapanen. He's protecting. Let Demidov do his thing because there's obviously going to be a lot more good than bad that comes from Demidov stick handling in the offensive zone. He's a wizard, but even wizards at the NHL level, they get checked because it's
They do.
the best league in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Look, there's again, we said it so many times, but there's a lot to look forward to with the Habs, and let's look at an improved version of most of the players we're talking about. And Demidov's going to cough up the puck less. Hopefully, he's going to shoot a little bit more in the offensive zone to give himself that space. Hopefully, Kapanen will continue to improve his overall skating and his stamina throughout the long season. And hopefully, Slavkovsky will continue to take the game to the opponent, not leave himself as susceptible to hard hits. There's a lot of guys that hopefully can and will improve, not just those
Yeah.
two. And I know Hudson will get better. Ryan Backer hopefully establishes himself and uses his skills. And there's just so many guys that you could and they should get better than they've seen so far.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's going to be a fun year. I think. Last year the Canadiens with Demidov with Kapanen as second line center and Newhook usually on the wing when he was healthy, they got 106 points, and that was with inconsistent goaltending in the first half where Monty kept being plugged in there as the starting goalie. Well, they're only going to be better this year. They're only going to be more comfortable playing with each other. The goaltending should be better from day one this year. Why do people not think that the Canadiens, with that core that is every player that's in the core, with the exception of Mike Matheson, is under 27 years of age, right? None have hit. Like Suzuki he keeps improving every year in point totals. Who's to say he can't do it again? Caulfield, he made the jump to 50 goals. Who's to say he can't score 55 or 60? And they're the old guys in this group. It's and Dobson. I think Dobson can have a better offensive season than he had last year. I think he can get more points on the power play if they get that sorted out, the second power play this year. Like, I think the three old guys in that core of like 10 or 12, it's crazy how many are under 27, can be more productive even this year. Well, that's not even talking about Demidov. That's not talking about a full year of Newhook, where I think this year he can get 25 goals and 50 points if he plays in that second line. That's not talking about Gooley making that next step, which I think finally, after having 250 games under his belt at the halfway mark, if he stays healthy, it is going to make that next jump that we've all been waiting for him to make, but he hasn't been able to make because he just hasn't been able to play enough games in a row. I think this team. I think they're going to be at the top of the Atlantic Division, and I maybe the top team in the Eastern Conference, with the exception of Carolina. I think they'll fight for the. They might even be in the President's Trophy hunt this year, Rick.
Yeah, totally. And another guy too that you didn't mention, Grant, too, that I think we could have a big step forward. And I know he's not well. He doesn't seem. I think people have lost patience with him. But Kirby Dack, this will be the first
Kirby.
time in maybe 4 years that he has an off
Yep.
season that he could actually just get in shape, where he's not rehabbing
Yeah.
something. That might be a
Right.
huge plus for him, in terms of stamina again,
Absolutely.
in terms of being able to play with more pace. He admitted in the past that he might not have taken his off-season workout as hard as he could, and last year he really tried harder to be in better shape. Another year of that might be a bit of a game changer. So, and when we talked about Reinbacher too, Grant, I think one aspect of his game maybe that we didn't touch upon that could be a big help for the Montreal forwards is how quick the transition game is with him. And if the transition game is quick, that's a second, third line that's going to get more production automatically because now you're going to have more of that, which
Yep.
helps Montreal because they're really good off the rush. So could they be is it possible that they're a President Cup contender? I do think it's possible. Again, players will get better, and there's opportunities for the Habs to get more talented players to join the team. Michael H could come in and do really well. No, Michael H, if he comes in at the end of the season where there's often a little bit of fatigue that sets in, or like just or a few players might be injured, uh, H comes in, he could give the team a spark at the right time where they need it to really stay on top. That's another big talent that we don't talk about that could be a difference maker for the Habs. So there's so many reasons to think that they could contend. Uh, there's going to be competition. There's other teams that are going to be up there with the Habs. It's a hard league, the NHL. It's look at the standings. There's not a big, there's not a huge difference between the fifth and 10th place team in this league. It's hard. It's going to be tight. They're not going to dominate, I don't think, because no team dominates generally. But they could be a President's Cup contender. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. Peter, you're cherry picking here. Okay. You look at the whole season. Like, he had 0 points in 7 playoff games because he was a fourth line winger playing 8 minutes. Oh, he had 0 points. Geez. Yeah. You know, that wasn't, of course he had 0 points in 7 playoff games. He was a freaking 12 forward, and then sat in the stands for 3 weeks and then was expected to produce. Come on. You got to look at the whole year. As far as the stamina thing, Peter, I brought it up 500 times on the show. Not just Rick that's brought up the point that he's got to get better stamina. I've been saying it. I've been saying it since last spring. Cappy needs to have a good off season, and guess what? He's from a hockey family. His freaking uncle and his dad played pro hockey. His grandfather played pro hockey. All of his cousins played pro hockey. Guess what Cappy's doing this off season? He's building his stamina. They know it. If we could see it and know it, you did not think that the Kapanens know it? You know what's happening right now? Oliver's getting in the best shape of his life. He'll come to camp more ready. Last year, he played 110 games in a calendar year after having never played 70 before in his life. He played in 3 different playoff leagues last spring. He played in the Olympics. He played a regular NHL shift, penalty kill, second line against all the other NHL teams' top lines in the world. Yeah, he ran out of steam. But it's, do I think he's spending all summer at the 19th hole golfing and then, in Finland and not getting in shape? You kidding me? His uncle will kick his ass. He's going to be ready. He's going to be in shape, and he's going to win that second line center spot and prove all of you naysayers wrong. Right, Rick?
I believe he can do it. Let's. I hope that one thing I hope he does though is, and I don't know that I hope he comes back to Montreal quicker during the off season. I like to see him just around the team a little bit. I think it's just good, not a game changer, but whatever it takes. So look, I mean, like you said, he's surrounded by helpers, by family members, very competent coaches back in Finland. They know what they're doing. I no doubt he'll be ready. And hopefully, he worked a lot on his just his skating and his explosion. He's got a really good shot, and he gets open a lot. If he could get that extra speed, man, he might
Yep.
score 25 goals. That little extra difference could mean a lot because he does also
35.
go to the net, so I'm not worried about that. 25
Yeah.
goals, at least, it could happen. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. Oh no, it's happened. Um, and VDoc thinks I'm only talking to him here. Look, I was generalizing, by the way. The one I said, not what I'm saying at all. I wasn't talking to you in general, VDoc. Um, I'm trying to say that Slav Demi was a true second line duo. You can run almost any of our centers, and we have a legitimate second line. Not a fan of running 15, 91, and 93. Okay. You're disregarding that when they played together, they were very good. They that line was good for the vast majority of the time that those three played together. They were they were good, and out against other teams' top lines, it was solid. And again, VDoc, like Slavkovsky and Suzuki, 1.5 goals per 60 even strength. Newhook and Kapanen 2.05, and you're saying they weren't good? Come on now. The stats say the exact opposite. They are freaking productive. They are underappreciated. And let's just see how things work out at the start of the year here. Let's stop complaining about, these guys aren't second line because the stats right there, right in front of your face, tell you differently. So let's just see how things go here. And as was pointed out, by Ken, yeah, you take Slav off the top line, and then the top line, guess what it did? It struggled. So is it all about Demidov? Like trying to get Demidov an extra 5 points a year? Is that all that matters? It's just no. What matters is winning. And that with the majority of the time with that being the team's second line with Slav um, playing with Suzuki and Caulfield being the first line, they got 106 points. So I don't see why you would turn around now and say, well, we've got to put, who cares about the first line? We got to put Slav with Demidov because he's our hero. He's the guy. That's all that matters is Demidov getting as many points as possible this year. That's all that matters. Not winning games, not getting the first line going. Demidov, he's got to get more points. You know, I I mean I love offense. I love the fact that Hudson and Demidov are the golden boys with the Montreal fans because they're the most exciting. But it's all about team. It's all about what makes sense. The second line center doesn't have to be, a 90-point scorer. In fact, you look at NHL teams that win Stanley Cups, and you look at it every year. It's invariably not a high point producing second line center. Look it up. Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Braden Shen, on and on and on. Who was the playoff MVP last year? Jordan Stahl, right? Well, is he getting 80 points? See a center that's been getting 80 points a year the last half decade? No, he's not. But it's a two-way, all-purpose center that ends up being so pivotal for a team. Yes, Cappy's got to have a better second half of the year. As you say, Rick, recency bias, right? What we saw at the end of the year was a guy that was clearly out of gas. Does that, does that mean that he hasn't been to the service station this summer and won't have a full tank of gas to start? No, I think Cappy will be primed and ready to roll. I think he's the fact that they didn't pick up you know, didn't try to get another center tells me that's the guy that they think will be in that spot to start the year, and they believe that he can, he can fill the role admirably. for the time being, at the very least, Rick.
That's a good point. They supposedly they went after Kovalenko, which was a no, not it was a Kovalenko. No, not Kovalenko. I don't know why I call him that. The winger for Columbus. There, I get mixed up. Got a bit of a brain crap. But they weren't going
Marchenko?
for a center. Yeah,
Right.
Marchenko. Sorry about that. A little brain crap. Yeah. So let's just see what happens, guys. Montreal. And if Kapanen does come back and he struggles and things are tough, well, he still has value as a young right-handed center in the league, and maybe with other assets that the Habs have, they could improve if that happens. We don't know, but all we're saying
Right.
is there's reason to think that he should continue to develop and that he could fill this role. So let's just see what happens.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not guaranteeing it, but the people that just insist that he can't do the job, I'm sorry, but breaking news here. The Canadiens have loaned forward Vinny Rohrer to Zug in the Swiss National League for the 26-27 season. Wow, Rick. So much for my camp surprise.
Is that
He's not even.
that's disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they're saying, okay, kid, you think you thought that you were going to put the pressure on us to give you a spot training camp. We're not only going to not give you the opportunity,
Jeez.
go there and
Oh,
fill your boots with Zug.
yeah. I
Wow.
I know he's
I
getting
guess
good
they
money
think he's
there.
not quite ready. What's that?
I know he's getting good money there, and I know as you just said, I guess they feel he's not quite ready. But I wish he wanted
Yeah.
to prove that he is ready a little bit and be a little bit more hungry about it. But again, when you're
Yeah.
making $900,000, I think he's making 975 in Switzerland. I guess he feels like I'm going to stay home and I make good money. I'm good enough as is. It's too bad. I would have liked to have seen him at Apps camp, and I thought he could. I thought he had an outside chance of being a little bit of a factor for the NHL with what he brings. Would have been a nice compliment to what everything they have everywhere else. Um, but I guess it's not going to happen. And at this point, if he signed a 3-year deal at Switzerland and the Habs are just going to send him there, I think the Habs are feeling that this guy's just not that interested maybe in coming to North America. I think they wish he was. I think they like him. But if the player doesn't show that hunger to play here and willing to sacrifice or to take a chance on himself like others have done, it's kind of too bad.
Yeah, I guess there's less construction in on the roads in Switzerland than there is in downtown Laval. I don't know if that's the turning point for him or not, but anyway,
You didn't like the puts in.
no, I don't know. But hey, 900, Switzerland, beautiful country. Uh,
Yeah.
925,000 and as opposed to 90 or whatever he'd be making in the AHL.
Yeah.
I guess you can't blame the kid in that regard, but hey, I think what the Habs would like Vinny to do this year, and in Zug he'll get a bigger opportunity. He'll be a top 2 center, if not the first line center on that team. Look for him to be hopefully go back to the Swiss League this year, be a top 20 scorer in the league, you know, just keep developing that offensive confidence at that level, and then come back to next year, come to camp ready to truly
Yeah.
compete for a spot in the lineup. I suppose they
Yeah.
didn't think, they're still they're big Texier fans, right? Can't beat out Texier, my friends. Nobody can beat Alex Texier. He's our guy. So back to Switzerland with you. Better luck next year, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe more of an opportunity next year. I think there's a few contracts to that end at the end of this year. Maybe they feel like, and with soon to be coming, unfortunate other expansion in the NHL, I'm figuring that next year, the year after, maybe he feels like there's more of a sure shot coming up soon.
Yeah. And VDoc will not stop on this. He's going to disagree till maybe I don't know his dying day, but till the cows come home. VDoc, I'm not going to read all of them because you're just going to get my blood pressure up, buddy. Um, he's adamant that you can't put those three, even though I guess he missed those games. There was only about 30 of them where they were the best line on the ice. But okay, VDoc, you're right. Okay, we'll just say you're right. I'm wrong. You're right. Thank you. You've convinced me. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's apparent some fans will never see Cappy as a 2C, and to a lesser extent, Newhook as a second line winger. I personally disagree. Now there's a post I like. Thank you very much, Sheldon. How much? Geez, are you? When you got to depart here, Rick?
I got another 10 minutes. I got another 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, why don't we wrap things up with you talking a bit more about the Hlinka. We didn't. We'll just get rid of this idiot. Sens Troller comes on to troll. Boo hoo, Habs fan, but yeah, well, boo hoo, you're gone. Go cry. Go cry on another podcast that you got banned from the HabsCast. Congratulations. Your badge of honor. So, all right. Player stats. Maddox Schultz led and Yako. Oh, how do you pronounce that, Rick? Wysick? Wisik?
I think it's Wisik. I think it's Wisik. That's the way I
You know
heard
it
it
ends SK?
a lot of times. Yeah.
Wychisk. Wysick. Anyway.
They say Wisik.
Okay, because it's easier to say, eh?
I
Even though it ends
so.
SK. Because I was I'm thinking, geez, really? Did they pronounce it Wysick? It ends at ISK. But anyway, try to say Wykisk. Wysisk. Yako. Anyway,
Yako.
tied with Maddox at the top. Liam Pugh, Burkar with the stage straighters. Tom Selleck, Landon Dupont, Ben Veach. I think they were saying Vitch. I always said Darren Veach, but I guess that's wrong too. Cameron Warren, Alessandro Dominichelli. That's a familiar name, Rick.
That's
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about your favorite Italian Swiss, Nat Dominichelli's son, by the way.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And he'll be playing in the WHL this year. I believe Portland, but I could be wrong. I'm just going by memory here. He is playing Portland.
That's where Nat played. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a few points earlier in the tournament, and he's a player that I think will be drafted somewhere. He's shifty. He's fast. He goes aggressively, and I thought he did some nice things. I don't know if he's got the finishing touch, to really produce a whole lot. But I could see him as an energy player in a few years as he continues to develop. Really a fun guy to watch, and I think he brought that energy on the line he played with. I think he was often on that first line there once in a while. And tried to help Nerschwander, who was really, really good, but try to give him a little bit of space by forcing the opponents to back up. A nice player to look at, and but one that does have some skills. So he's a player to look at. I'm looking at him as an energy player in the future now, but maybe a year in the CHL, it might be a little bit more. Definitely a guy you want to just take a look at with the corner of your eye. Maybe not a first round pick, but definitely to me a draft.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that other Swiss guy you say? What was that name again?
Nürnschwander. I have such a hard time with his name, and I feel bad for him because when he's going to become a big-time hockey player, and I think he will because he's really, really good. He's going to have a heck of a long time signing autographs, man. It's like, oh, here we go again. Why couldn't they name me Ed Ott, the best celebrity athletic player you could be? A lot of autographs, fast. Here we go.
Yeah, for sure, man. Possible top 5 pick. That kid, he's pretty well-rounded player, isn't he?
Exactly is. He's really he brings a lot of everything, and he brings a lot of everything at a 6 foot. I think he's 6'3" already. Really a young player. he's cerebral when he needs to be. He could be aggressive when he needs to be. He could play defense, or defensive roles, I should say, as a center. Uh, he could overpower opponents at times. You want to see a bit more jump in his first few steps, but at the size he is and at the age he is, it's not surprising that he hasn't developed that strength to really go hard on his first few strides. But he does skate well. He just needs a little bit more jump to get that separation. But yeah, he could be a top five player. I would not be shocked at all. At all.
Yeah. Maris, obviously, hard not to notice the 6'6" kid in the Czechia that had 6 points. What were your thoughts on him at the tournament?
He, he became one of my favorites really quickly, and he'll be playing with Rimouski this year, so I'll have a chance to go see him in person a few
Mm,
times.
yeah,
The one thing about him is, first of all, he's 6'6", and there's a misconception that 6'6" players are big, physical, strong guys. And that's not always the case because to hit hard, you need to have that jump. You need to be quick. You need to be coordinated with your footwork. He could hit hard, and he does. And the thing about him that I really like is, for such a big player, he's got really good straight ahead speed for such a big guy. The stride is
yeah,
not as short as many are. He goes up and down the ice quickly. Again, he needs to work on his explosiveness. He's definitely not a creative guy, so he's not going to be like, using his finesse and vision to create scoring opportunities for others. He's just going to barrel through opponents, and he does on a regular basis. He's going to have a lot of fun in the queue, I think, this year. I think a lot of Q players
yeah,
are going to be rolling around like bowling pins when he's on the ice.
yeah. What about the 5'8" defenseman? Good stats from him. Kid's got some
Yeah.
offensive ability there.
Oh, for sure. Great vision. I like the way he moves the puck, and one thing he does really, really well is he's just a really good job supporting the offense, but knowing how to do it, right? Where he'll pick and choose his moments well. He does have a tendency to go in deep, but not usually with any like bad consequences that you would see. But what I really like is he times his moments well, where he knows the puck is going to get to the front of the net, and he crashes it and he gets a good shot out. But the problem becomes, at 5'8", when you're not a particularly quick skater as a defenseman, there's only so far you could go, and that's the big concern with him. Will he be able to get that big separation speed and that footwork that he needs to do to compensate for that small size? It's up in the air.
Yeah, for sure. And the Finns had a good first line there. They
Oh yeah,
showed some things. Santana looks like a half
yeah.
decent prospect.
Oh yeah, top 20, I think. I know, maybe top 15 even. He did a lot of things
Yeah.
well. A pretty good two-way player, but offensively, he pushes the pace, and he wants the puck, and he wants to make plays. And of course, because it has to happen like that, he'll be playing in the OHL with, guess what? London, of course. They just
Yeah.
keep getting the best players in the world all the time, and he's going to shine really well there. His line mate, Pavel Fugelberg, is not draft
Yeah.
eligible this year. He's going to be next year.
Oh,
He's another highly talented player. Like, just skates really well, handles the puck really well through traffic, and he'll probably be playing in the in the CHL next year. With, guess who? Moncton, another team that tends to get all the best players.
yeah.
They're Quebec's version of London, if you will, in terms of getting the best players. But those two guys really stood out for me for Finland, and I want to see a little bit more. I got some games PVR'd, but I'm gonna take a look
Kokkonen.
at the Finland's games a little bit more.
Yeah, Kokkonen as well.
Yeah, he's another pretty
Um,
good defenseman.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Louis Carlson, Sweden was um, popped a few goals. Was there who were the guys on Sweden that you would uh, obviously this is not going to be a year with half dozen Swedes going in the first round. It doesn't look like, but
Oh
a
gosh.
bit of a down year for them. But who uh, who on the Swedes kind of caught your eye, if any?
I think you see a lot of individual talent with Sundstrom and Carlson and others, and they
Yeah,
do a lot of things, well. I think the problem is, as a team, I don't remember seeing such a talented team being so lost in their own zone. Carlson was playing
yeah,
some penalty kill, and he did okay shorthanded, but 5-on-5, he was so often out of position and just standing there and not knowing what to do next. He could not handle some of the speed from Canada. Not a lot of teams could, but I was surprised that Sweden had such a hard time. I think Milan Sundstrom, son of former Hab Nicholas, is the top Swedish player just because of the tools, the passing ability, the smarts. He's got it all, and I don't think he played bad, but I think there was just a lack of depth in Sweden, a lack of structure. The
Yeah,
transition game, they could not handle the opponent's transition game at all. At all, they struggled mightily. It's just a really bad year for Sweden. But I think Carlson might be a player. He plays with energy. He's under the opponent's skin. He moves really quickly. He's just going to have to learn structure because if this is the way he plays all along, he'll have a really tough time making it to the next level because he could not handle. Without the puck, he couldn't handle it. He struggled to me a lot.
yeah. And on the Slovaks, Selleck obviously had that one huge game. You got to be careful with that, right? Kid has like a 5, 6 point game and then
Right,
only 2 points the rest of the tournament.
right.
You have to keep it in context. But on the
He's-
Slovaks, were there who stood
Well,
out for you?
I really like the defenseman Oliver Botka. He's a guy I saw this offseason. I was looking at games from past years, and he had some interesting tools. I like the way he quickly moves the puck up the ice. He works hard defensively. He just seems to be around the puck all the time, and that really impressed me. Sella, I mean, the thing with him is, I know is the results were not what besides that one game, the rest of the time the point level was not the point production was not great. But I did like some aspects of his game. So he's a guy to keep an eye on because of what he could do. I like the way he skates the puck up the ice pretty quickly. I like his ability
Yeah,
to make plays while in movement. I saw a lot of times where he was skating down the ice at a really quick speed and he was able to spot and complete a pretty good pass. Those are nice tools to have. I thought he was pretty good defensively. So uh, the point production, besides that big game, maybe not what you want it to be, but still a guy to keep an eye on because there was some tools there that really intrigued me, and I want to see a bit more of him. He's a guy I'm going to keep an eye on.
yeah, for sure. Did you say Oliver Bonk? Or
Oliver
yeah, I thought
Botka.
I heard
Botka. Oh, sorry about
Vodka.
that.
Yeah,
Maybe I
okay.
didn't pronounce it well. It's Botka.
It-
Botka.
well, no, there is an Oliver Bonk, and
Yes, there is.
Freudian slip there. I do it
Of
all the
course.
time. Okay, vodka, yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
What about the Americans? Who are the guys that you
Oh,
thought stood out?
well, for
Not not
Gavin
not
Burkhardt to
counting
me.
last night.
No, not
Yeah,
counting last night. Song and DiCanzulo and guys like that. I think their point production impressed people, but they're undersized guys that scored a lot of points earlier
yeah,
in the tournament. When the games became difficult, they were not much of a factor to me. So I think their point production was a little bit misleading.
uh-huh,
Uh, Burkhardt to me was their better forward. I think he was involved with Cullen, but Cullen's an underage kid. He's going to be draft eligible next year. But in terms of draft
yeah,
eligible players, I thought Burkhardt was pretty good, two-way player. Maybe not great upside, but I think he's consistent. Defense, Jake Punty was to me their best defenseman. Moved the puck really well
yes,
again, undersized a bit, but did a lot of things well. One forward, Grant, that caught my eye, and I want to see a bit more of him because I think he's going to be playing, unfortunately, in the Minnesota high school system. I wish he would not, move up somewhere else, but maybe something I'm not aware of changed. But I thought Colin Grubb was a pretty good,
yeah,
clever player. He did a lot of nice things. I think he supported his line mates really, really well and did he worked with them well and compensated for what they needed. He's a guy that I hope will be moving to a higher level because I want to see a bit more of him. He's, later on in the draft. We're not talking first round at this point. We're talking maybe third, fourth, fifth. But a guy that has some qualities that I like in a forward.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Were there any Germans that caught your eye?
Max Calche is their best player probably, and he was good. I have no problem with the way he played. Uh, maybe I think some people expected more out of him. I don't know how, because there was not a heck of a lot for him to play with in German and with that team. Like, you got to give the guy a bit of a break, um, because everybody was on him and there was no relief. But he plays with good intensity. He wants the puck on his stick. He tries to be a factor. He doesn't get discouraged. So I was a big fan. I wouldn't say big fan. I was a fan, I should say. But another guy that I think will be drafted, and where it's really hard to tell. Uh, he's got room for improvement because there's some individual skills there that are really interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So, as usual, there's a few decent looking prospects. It's funny, Hockey Canada has Strader listed at 6 foot, and on Elite Prospects he's 5'10". Um, maybe somewhere in between that. Be nice if he was
I
5'11", but I think he's closer to 5'10" than he is to 6 foot, I'd say.
I'm, I have no idea. I mean, it's hard to tell because they're at the age now where a growth spurt could have happened the last 2 months. So
Right, right.
I don't know. It's and you see them because of I think so. I've noticed sometimes that I make a lot of mistakes on the height of players where I'll overestimate their
Yeah,
height or underestimate their height because it's such a variety at this age, right? Guys are 6'4", guys are 5'10", 5'8", and you see a lot of that because they're in the middle of their growth spurt for most of them. So I have no idea
yeah, yeah, yeah.
how tall he is, to be honest. I don't know.
Well, no, well, I mean, I've got a lot of years of practice of it, and he's not 6 foot. We'll just put it that
He's
way.
not 6 foot.
Can
Okay,
No, no. We know
okay, I'll
he's
go
under
with that.
that. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes they add an inch or two, especially for Hockey Canada's
Oh yeah,
website. They
oh
don't
yeah,
want
oh yeah. That
they wanted the other teams to be intimidated.
Yes,
Um,
that 100%. And or their agent calls the TSA, give him an inch or two, it'll help his draft stock.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And but I like that kid a lot. I think
Yeah,
he's one of the, you know, yeah, he might be. I think you can make a case for there being at least a handful of guys under 6 feet that will be under consideration for the first round this year.
yes,
Um, it's typically you got to be 6 foot plus unless you're super special, but um, it looks like there's at least a few that are in the discussion after what we
absolutely.
saw at Holinka,
100%.
including Cripps, Strader, you know, maybe Warren, a few of them there. But
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, it's as always, Rick. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming on Summer Brunch. Guess you got to go get something to eat. Is it brunch time or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get something to eat, and then we're gonna go visit mom a little bit. It's actually her
Oh,
birthday
good.
today, so we're gonna go
Oh, is
say
it
hi.
really?
And yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. So
wish her a happy birthday for me, and
thank you,
have a have a grand have a grand afternoon. Thank you so much,
thank
Rick,
you,
as always, and
thank you, Brent.
we'll see you next Sunday, if not sooner.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you very much for coming in and join us.
thank you, Rick Springhetti, folks, the one and only. Great to have him back on. Listen, we've had a pretty good gang in here this afternoon, or sorry, this morning. Um, Lots of talk. You know, hey, I get that Kapanen's not, you know, he didn't have a fantastic second half to the year, and there's some question marks there. I get it. I just, I think, I think he'll come in and have a solid year, and hopefully prove to folks that he is capable of being Montreal's second line center. Hey, it would be great if he could fill that spot. You get Hage on the other side eventually there, because I think Hage can be a really good left winger too, or even third line center until he's ready to take over from Kapanen if he ever is. All the better for the depth of this club going forward. I hope Kapanen can be their second line center because it just means they're stronger all around in their top nine. Uh, Sheldon, thank you for the toonie. Excellent show, Grant and Rick. Appreciate that. Peter saying true on some of those points for sure. Still best division in the league, so they will end up splitting most points. Well, thing is, Peter, they lost games to Toronto last year. They lost. Detroit won 2 out of 3. Is Detroit gonna, you know, win more games than the Habs? And by the way, they play every division rival 4 times this year, but the fact still is that 67% of their games are out of conference, so that's still a bigger factor. Last year, Montreal got swept by Anaheim, San Jose, um, the Rangers. Uh, Philly did not lose a game against Montreal. Like those are all, let's say Florida, Florida got 2 points against the Habs in 3 games last year. Let's say in their 4 games, they win 3 this time. Okay, fine. But, Tampa beat Montreal last year. Montreal's record in the Atlantic Division was lower than their record overall last year. So it's not like they beat up on everybody here. Ottawa beat them, Toronto beat. I think every team other than Florida beat them at least once last year in the division. So, it's not like they're just going to go winless now in the Atlantic Division. I don't think honestly that the division is that much stronger. Like Tampa added Brady Tkachuk and Radko Gudas and Garnet Hathaway. They're all slower than molasses. So, like, yeah, Brady Tkachuk, okay, great, but they lose their starting goalie who basically backstopped them to 2 cups, and they're just supposed to, they get a 37-year-old goalie, they get a 36-year-old defenseman in Gudas, they get a slowpoke in Kachuk. They're a team that already wasn't that fast, just got slower. I don't know, like, are they just going to be unbeatable this year? I don't believe so. And then you look at here are the changes in the key roster changes for the year. Okay, Montreal again, internal growth, and I think that's the best way to do it. Honestly, if you don't need to make changes, and you've got the youngest team in the league, don't make changes just for the sake of changes. But Florida, Rodriguez, Greer, Bobrovsky, Samoskevich out, like, some decent talent there. But Kachuk, Markstrom, Gudas, Schmid, Hathaway, Eller, again, they certainly did not get any faster or younger. Tampa Bay brought it, same deal. They brought in a 37-year-old defenseman, Radish, good young defenseman, gone. Nick Paul, Corey Perry. So are they better? No. Buffalo, Zellweger, Crevier in, took Byram out. Are they better? Certainly not based on Aussies with Moose, but I think Buffalo, like Montreal, there'll be internal improvement because they've got those good young players like the Benson, Huselius, Ostlin, Power. All those 4 take one more step, I believe, in their development this year, just like Montreal. Toronto, I mean, hey, they couldn't get worse, right? And sure, looking at the off season, they've improved on paper. It'll take a while for them to adapt to when there's that many changes in the dressing room, 6, 7, or 8 in, and 8 players in, 6 out. Like that's a carousel. But does that mean now Toronto's going to win every game against the Habs? Or no? They'd be lucky to split. Very lucky. Ottawa, can't say that they're stronger here. Eklund, Burakovsky, Erson in, Kachuk, Eller out. I don't know. That looks like a minus. Looks like a minus to me. Boston gets Paterka. Okay, that'll help them. But Arvidsson, Korpisalo gone. They'll be a little better, I guess. But I thought they overachieved last year. Will they be better than they were last year? I think they kind of they got more points than I think we expected last year. We'll see. Maybe they're a little better, but I don't see that they're gonna, all of a sudden beat up on the Habs. Detroit, Kane out. They didn't really. Arvidsson, Kolasar, Tarasov, kind of spinning their wheels. They've got a disgruntled captain. Will Detroit have a winning record against the Habs this year? I don't think so. I think the Habs turned that around and beat them. So it's not like they swept all of these teams last year in head-to-head matchups. Like I said, Florida was the only team that wasn't able to garner a win against the Habs. Couple of them, Detroit had a better record. Like Montreal lost the last 2 games against Detroit. Are they going to do that this year against Detroit? No, I think they're a better team. And I also think they're not going to get swept by Anaheim, San Jose, and have a losing record against the Rangers and Philly. And there was 2 or 3 other teams where it's like, oh, well, they can do better against those teams this year. Because I think they were a Final Four team last year. I think they're one of the top 5 teams in the league. So, you know, build off their playoff success, build off of this young core only improving. I think that they're 105 points plus, and if I were to put a number on it, I'd say 110 is a distinct possibility for this team this year. Do I think? Hey Dan, do I think Owen Beck will crack the lineup this year, or is he a trade asset? Well, maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't know that if he doesn't crack the lineup that he has to be traded. He can still be. Who knows? Like, what is? It'll be interesting to see how Danault looks this year, right? Like, if we see the Danault that first half of the season, Danault in LA and Montreal, if we see that again the first half this year, it wouldn't surprise me at some point he's replaced by Beck in the lineup. Hopefully we see second half and playoff Danault, but there's no guarantees on that. That'll be part of part of it. Texier, is he consistent this year? We'll see, but I think Beck is the main with Oregon now. Beck and Jacky are the main guys to push for a place in the lineup. If either or both has standout camps, maybe they start the year in the lineup with perhaps Texier being the extra forward. I think that that's a possibility. I hope Beck's ready to crack the lineup this year. He's certainly got enough pro experience now. He brings speed to the lineup. He's got an NHL shot. He can score some goals, played well defensively, hit. I hope he makes the team at some point this year. Same with Reinbacher. Goaltending will be a huge factor this season. Hopefully Dovas continues his progression. I believe he will continue his fine play. Yeah, it's a factor. It's a factor with Toronto. It's a factor with Florida. It's a factor with Montreal. It's a factor with Buffalo. All of these teams, right? There's question marks with all of the teams that I just mentioned as far as goaltending goes. And it might be one of the reasons why maybe Boston, is very good because they've got Swayman and you know that he's probably going to be good. Ottawa's got question marks in goal. Which Allmark do we see this year? The only really 2 teams that you'd say, well, you pretty well know they're going to get good goaltending for sure is Tampa and Boston. Montreal, I hope so, but there's no guarantee. I like the fact that Fowler's already been given games, has some experience, and that he's a nice backup just in case there is some some issues with Dobie, because I don't think Fowler ever play extremely poorly. He's always going to be. He may have the odd hiccup, but for the most part, you're going to get half decent goaltending from Jacob Fowler. And Monty's the wild card. I ran out of time, and it had been suggested by Rick that I talk about that, but we'll do it maybe next show. What's the future hold for Montembeault here? If he's clearly the third guy coming out of camp, what do you do? I think maybe the end of camp, maybe a left defenseman in Montembeault. If a team needs some help on the back end in net and on defense, maybe they get packaged to try to pick up maybe even a bottom six forward with size that can be added to the group, something like that. We'll see. Grant, you're right. Speed is a great equalizer in today's NHL. Look at Carolina, what they did. Florida didn't go that route with their acquisitions. Well, I mean, Barkov's, like, they got Marchand, they've got like, you look at their group, it's here, let me, like, I did something there, and again, go check out my Patreon page, HabsCast Patreon, but I included some in-depth graphs here. It's a really long it's an in-depth article, and I recommend you go read it. I kept it free because I want to get some more Patreon subscribers here, and more people having a chance to win those 2 tickets to the last exhibition game. But you look at the age comparison core players here: Barkov 31, Bennett 30, Ekblad 30, Forsling 30, Seth Jones 32, Lundell 25, Listerinen 28, Marchand 38, Markstrom 37, Reinhart 31, Kachuk 27, Kachuk 29, Verhaeghe 31, Mikkola 30. That's not including Gudas and Eller, and they're both in their late 30s too. So, but their core average age 30.6. Now you look at Montreal's 14-man core, if you want to call it that, average age 24.9. So almost 6 years gap in the age difference there. And also, I think it's fair to say that group, that Canadiens group, is a speedier group than what you have in Carolina there. I mean, a lot of good players, a lot of guys in their later primes, but also, and I think this is the most important thing when I talk about internal growth, Anton Lundell is the only player in that group that you think could appreciably still have some growth here as far as production goes. Like, he's 25. Every other player's 27 plus. Maybe Brady Kachuk. Maybe he can, but he's also, what? He's been an 80-point scorer. Is it going to be more than that with Florida? I don't know. Maybe. But that's the only other maybe. But everybody else there, what you see is what you get, right? They're not taking another jump offensively. None of them. Like, they've all had their career years, I would think, for the most part. So that's not the case with the Habs here. Suzuki, that's the wrong age. That should be 26. Caulfield should be 25. Anyway, all of these years are a little off. They're a couple of the years. Anyway, Hudson, Gooley, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Kapanen, Newhook, Doc. We could all, Bolduc. None of these guys, I don't think, had career years last year. Like, Suzuki's going to at least equal his point totals again. Caulfield's going to score 50 again, I believe, if it not this year, another year. Slav, just the tip of the iceberg. Demidov, same deal. Cappy, was a rookie. Newhook, um, uh, solid. I thought he had a breakthrough, but again, you know, he hasn't been a 20-goal scorer yet. I think he does it this year. Doc, wild card, Bolduc, 19 goals as a rookie, only 12 last year. You can certainly better that, right? Hudson, I think he's just getting going. Gooley's got another step. Dobson, I believe he can. I mean, he had a 70-point season before, so last year wasn't a career year by any means. Doby just getting going. Like, there's a lot of room for improvement there yet from this group, just based on age, and that's not even including Gooley, Jackeye, and who knows, right? Maybe they take another step this year. And Reinbacher's not in that list, and he could be an X factor all by himself. So I uh, I look forward to this year. I think the Canadiens are going to be right in the thick of you know, the top of the Atlantic standings. And personally, I think they're the top. They're the best team in the Atlantic, but we'll see. It's not going to be easy. There'll be a lot of tight games. It's going to be, you know, parity is alive and well in the NHL, but especially in the Atlantic Division. There's no easy games with any of those players. Who gets the A here? Lots of Hudson being best for the job. Who gets the A? I don't know that Hudson gets it just yet. I mean, you know, player wise, you would have to think that he's in that discussion, right? Um, hmm. Gooley's a possibility. Dobson's pretty quiet though. Frig, you could slap an A on several guys in this squad. Evans, obviously, Deneau, Anderson. Anderson's worn A before. I wouldn't be surprised if Andy gets the A permanently, along with Matheson. If I were to be a betting man, I think it might be Anderson. I mean, you know, heart and soul guy, right? Um, if he lost his, okay. Who lost his step? Oh, Galley. Okay. Domi's recovery not going well. Is this accurate? Um, sorry, Dan. I have not been keeping up on Leafs news. That's sort of, um, it's not really my domain. I can't say one way or the other, but hopefully Max Domi's recovery is going okay, and he can play again next year. Folks, lots of you still on board here. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We've had good numbers for our summer brunch. I'm going to wrap this up in a few minutes. We're already over the 2-hour mark. I got to get some brunch myself. I think, yeah, injuries happen. Good point, Tim. Exactly. I think Beck deserves a spot, but why trade him if he doesn't make it out of camp? Could be depth for second, third, fourth line. Yeah, and you're right. Injuries happen, and he'll get NHL time this year. I'd be quite surprised if he doesn't. You know, I think he'll be getting time in the NHL for sure, and maybe right from day one. But there could be injuries in camp. That's right. If there is, then guess what? He's a good bet to start the season in the lineup. Bonachar Cays, Eganville, Ontario, a private family-owned business run by hockey fans. Folks, it's August. Get up there if you haven't already. I haven't heard too many reports from you folks say that you went and checked it out. I hope you do, because you can pick up a free copy of my hockey book, Valley Snapshots, if you do. Just ask Caveman Chris there, who's holding it. It's Andy beside him. Copy of my book, Valley Snapshots, free if you go check out the caves, Bonashare Caves. Here is a look inside, well lit throughout, planking down, so it's a nice, it's a comfortable walk. BonashareCaves.com is the web address. Check it out. If you haven't gone, hey, still they go till Thanksgiving, but August is the tourism month. Get to the National Capital Region. It's very close by. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Bonashare Caves, folks. Tell them Grant sent you if you go. Andy for the A. Yeah, I think so. Gary Pocket. Hey, Gary, where are you from? That's a new name here. Tell us where you hail from. Kent always says won't sacrifice future to be better now. Yep, he does. Da Vinci says, I like Beck a lot. We can use his two-way face-offs, grit shot if he doesn't make team out of camp. First call-up kind of guy. Yep, for sure. Matheson's rushes and puck control helped a lot more than it hurt. You can bust on Matheson for a few mistakes, but no one can be compared to Galley as far as effectiveness. Yeah. Yeah. I second Andy for the A. Who's the other A right now? Well, Matheson, right? Wrong church. I think Domi recovery going well. Okay. Was at a charity golf tournament, and he was at a charity hockey event in Toronto. I saw he's out and about. Oh, that's good. Mind you, there's quite a difference between a charity golf tournament and an NHL hockey game, but would make sense to have another forward as the other A. Yeah, probably. You're from Sudbury. Okay. You know Blaine Potvin? Blaine's from Sudbury too. I think Anderson could be it, as Grant said. Hey, wow. Everybody agreeing about something. Finally. As long as I didn't say it should be Kapanen that wears the A, right? We can all be on agreement then. Lower Canada guy. Oh, gee. You're making yourself noticed. What would it take to get McKinnon? Well, I think Liam McKinnon can be. I don't think he's a blue chip prospect by any means. Former Halifax defenseman. I think it would be. I think it would be relatively inexpensive to get Liam McKinnon. What do other folks think here? So that'd be the only McKinnon that they'd be getting. It'd be Liam. You can't be talking about Nathan, right? Because I mean, let's stay in the real world here, folks. I'm not even going to qualify that to, you know, with a trade proposal because, let's see, Liam McKinnon. Ooh, I don't think they're getting Liam. Played one game with the Halifax Mooseheads. I'm thinking of the other one, eh? What the heck's his name? That must be his brother. Dylan McKinnon. That's who I meant. Sorry about that, folks. He's with Providence. Yeah, not sure what the cost would be to get Dylan McKinnon, but he's in Boston's. He played with Charlottetown last year, former Halifax Moosehead. I don't know. One of Jared Davidson for Dylan McKinnon. Would that do it? as Ken said, yeah, more than most Habs fans would stomach. Yeah. Suzuki, Cole, and Slav for Nathan, and that still wouldn't be enough. Yeah, well. Breaking news, folks. Colorado's not trading Nathan McKinnon. Sorry about that. Are you thinking like get McKinnon and then you can talk Crosby and Marchand come to Montreal? Maybe more so Crosby than Marchand. Would that be fair to say? All right, folks. Sheldon, thanks as always for the toonie. Mark, where are you today, my friend? Are you getting down to Ottawa? We're getting together for that pint this month. Mark's on holidays there, so he must be actually doing something other than just watching HabsCast every day. Although, not sure there's anything better than doing that. Hey, really appreciate the number of you that showed up today. VDoc, thanks for hanging in there, buddy. I didn't get to all of your responses, but you had quite a few as usual. We'll just agree to disagree on New Hook and Cappy being decent second line players to play with Demidov this year. It's certainly not guaranteed, and I can understand the arguments against it, but at the same time, I don't think they're poor choices by any stretch of the imagination. Colorado traded away players so they could keep Nathan. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Drum Dude. Thanks, Sheldon. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in as always. I imagine I'll be doing a show tomorrow night. Look, I'm going to do my top 30 prospects this week as soon as I get back on Instat. I have to download all of the videos I did. I'm going to have video of every player. Going to do it in 3 shows. Day 1, prospects 21 to 30. Day 2, prospects 11 to 20. And the final show, top 10 Habs prospects. Should be a lot of fun. Maybe I can get Rick or Blaine to what's this? Hung in by the hair on my chinny chin chin. All right. Good for you. Who was that? The Big Bad Wolf? Can't remember. Anyways, VDoc, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Great debate and discussion as always. Have a great day. Fun day to talk hockey. We'll see you tomorrow night. Same place, different time. 7 o'clock for a regular 7 p.m. Eastern time show. I hope you can join us at that time. Take care. Have a great day.